Hello, everyone. It's Tommy Lee Hayes Brown with Rito Recognition. Today is a webinar with my friend Roy Saunderson, who is the Chief Learning Officer here at Rito, and he's a key recognition strategist and thought leader in the employee recognition industry. Roy is the author of many articles and books, including his latest, Practicing Recognition, the first in his series of practical and strategic books on giving recognition the right way. Regular contributor to Training Magazine and Incentive Magazine, and was chosen as 25 most influential people in the incentive industry in both 2017 and 2018. As one of the world's most foremost thought leaders in employee recognition and engagement, Roy consults leaders and employees, workforces, and companies and governments and associations around the world. We're thrilled to have him with us today. He's going to share with us what awesome recognition looks like. But before I hand it over to Roy, I want to just a couple housekeeping items. And if you have any questions or comments, I'll be sitting in the background collecting those for Roy, and we'll make sure we get to most of them. And if you have any recommendations on specific areas in employee recognition that you're struggling with, please share those as well. Press the button there on the left side of your screen. It'll send a message to me, and we will collect all that feedback and share the questions with you at the end of the webinar. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to my friend Roy Saunderson. Roy.
Thank you very much, Tommy Lee, and we certainly do appreciate your input, your comments, your questions that we have answered over the many webinars that we've done. It's very exciting to hear from you and to be able to dig deeper into recognition and how we can help you get recognition right. So this is an interesting topic. This is what awesome recognition looks like. So I thought it would be good to kind of explore what is awesome recognition and what it looks like so that we can replicate it and so that you can learn how to think, what to do, to be able to demonstrate the same kind of awesome recognition that employees obviously want to receive. And always like to set the stage first. And so what do you need to be able to give awesome recognition? So I think if you look around at the people you already admire who give this awesome, great recognition, you'll find that they have certain attitudes about life and about people and about valuing work and contributions that people make. So it's kind of creating those same kind of attitudes that we want to exemplify. And they also demonstrate these incredible positive behaviors that just always seem to be present with awesome recognition. Whenever you see awesome recognition, you're going to see some of the behaviors we're going to talk about today. And I want to share some of those with you. But first, what I need to do is just think about what happens before any awesome recognition happens. So we're going to talk about before awesome recognition. We're going to talk about during awesome recognition and also after awesome recognition. So take notes if you can, and certainly you can review the slides and the commentary with the webinar afterwards as well. So one of the first things I've noticed about givers of awesome recognition is that they're really grounded people. They're fully present. And I've always loved this term that when you're in the room, be in the room. And this is all about how great recognizers are more engaged with the people they're interacting with. When they actually show up, they are there for people. They know how to ask the right questions. They're fully involved with everyone around them. And so, when people come through to visit, especially leaders, they'll put aside some meeting time and they'll actually go out on the floor. If it's a plant floor, into the office area. They'll be with the people. You'll find that they're so present that they are very disarming because of the questions they ask, the truly caring attitude that they have around people. And you'll find that they're very open and transparent. And what that does is it breeds transparency and openness back. And in that sharing, they can't help but know more about their employees that merits giving better, awesome recognition. Another thing that we find that those givers of awesome recognition do is they connect regularly with people. They have great one-on-one interactions. I know one CEO who literally spends some of his lunch hours going to the cafeteria, mingling with the regular employees and trying to connect with them, trying to learn about what they're going through, asking questions about what could be improved at work. And they'll use whatever vehicles are available to them to connect and communicate positive messages with those employees. You know, you'll find that they'll send, once they've heard about what's going on with an employee, you know, you might find they'll send a text message to kind of spur people on if they've got a challenging task. Or they start off the day by sending a grateful email to someone that they've reflected about. And you may even get a phone call from them or even a thank you note, a handwritten note. They take that time, they build it in, and they connect with their people. That's when you get awesome recognition happening. And you'll also find that these givers of awesome recognition are always looking out for what successes people are having. They kind of got a bit of a tabs on people. They're asking their direct reports about what their employees are doing. They'll find out what's meaningful to an employee. So in those conversations, whether it's in the hallway, in the cafeteria, in a town hall, they'll make notes as to what somebody's working on that's important to them. And they find out what's going on with your growth and development, and they'll help you out where they can. It seems that because of this kind of grapevine connection that they have through their own direct reports and supervisors, that they have a kind of a grapevine connection on what you're doing, and they know when you're succeeding. And they'll reach out and give that awesome recognition because of it. And you'll find that once they're connected with you, they'll be your champions. They'll always be highlighting what you're doing and speaking up and sharing what you're doing. And if you're going to get a secondhand compliment, it'll likely have originated from someone who gives awesome recognition. These individuals, and it doesn't have to be in a leadership position, it can be anybody who can give awesome recognition, but they take time to learn everything about the other people they're working with their, whether it be peers, someone above them, someone below them, in hierarchy position, they still learn everything they can. So find out about the personal interests and the family situation of the people you work with. And it's always important to have a sit-down opportunity to do a recognition preference interview, if you will, to find out the likes, the dislikes around recognition. And then, you know what? You find people who give awesome recognition, they use that information. You can tell. They found out what your favorite drink is or what your favorite treat is, and you end up getting a note along with those items on your desk one day after, you know, something significant has happened, or maybe just an act of caring. But they know you, and that's when you find awesome recognition happening. So we've talked a little bit about what happens before awesome recognition occurs. Now let's take a look at what happens during any awesome recognition delivery. So what happens with these awesome recognition experiences? Well, in order to make it awesome, you've got to find out more information about what it is the person did that merits the recognition. So you have to do a little bit of homework before giving the recognition. So understand specifically what it is they did. And too many times people's roles, the job roles change, and leaders, managers don't even really know what we're working on anymore because everything's evolved. So find out what they're doing, find out what merits the recognition, and get as many specific details as you can about what they did, how they did it, why they did it. And then try to find out, why is it that this employee is able to excel at this task over, say, other employees? Not from a comparison point of view, but just to understand this employee better. What makes them tick? This information is going to help you to give awesome recognition in whatever way you need to express it to them. Now, the second part is that they always look for the impact or the difference made. That's what makes this awesome recognition, because if what the person did is worthy of recognition, then it must have made a difference to someone. So your job is to drill down to find out the impact this employee's actions actually made on people. So you're going to have to find out who it impacted. Was it just a peer? Was it their manager, a customer? Or did it really benefit the company because it really kind of impacted a strategic goal? And what about the values of the organization? How has this impacted us overall? Because the impact to one is an impact to many. And when you really acknowledge the difference and the contributions that someone's made, that's when it's awesome recognition. And what's interesting about awesome recognition is I have seen time and time again, it's just said just right. It's incredible. They take just the few minutes that they need. It doesn't take long, but they'll just put a little bit more thought and care into what they say to communicate the awesome recognition that they deserve. Now, in choosing the right words, obviously you may know that vocabulary-wise, 50% of our vocabulary is negative. Only about 30% is positive. So choose positive words. Choose words that will show that you know what the person did and the difference they've made. And they set the right tone with how they communicate. It's upbeat, it's positive, it's energized. That's what awesome recognition is all about. And the same thing transfers to whether they're writing an email message to the individual, a handwritten note. What's interesting is those are the emails and notes that are keepers. They're meaningful. You've got a relationship with this giver of recognition. It's a positive relationship. And so the communication that you receive, you want to keep. That's what happens when you say it just right. Now, awesome recognition is not just said right, it's also done the right way. So what you'll find is that those givers of awesome recognition, they make a big deal when an individual doesn't mind the limelight and loves public recognition. They'll make it special. They'll give something, a token of appreciation. They'll highlight the individual. They'll make that person feel great. Now, here's the interesting thing. What about the people who don't like public recognition? Well, you may never hear of the awesome recognition that they give to the people who, want private one-on-one recognition. But the fact is, givers of awesome recognition use respect as their gauge. They already have found out what the individual likes as far as recognition, and they honor it. And so they honor the person, and they make sure that they celebrate that person in the way that they prefer. That's why recognition like this is done the right way, because it's so individual, it's meaningful, it's respectful, it's honoring of that person. So these are the kinds of things and ways you can give awesome recognition. It takes a little bit of care and time, but notice a lot happens before you actually give it. So you're already prepared. You can be quite spontaneous by giving and saying and doing it right because you're prepared. You know the individual, you know their likes and dislikes, and you give it the way they want it. That's what awesome recognition looks like. Now, we're not done. There's also the afterglow of giving awesome recognition, and it can be done in many ways. So let's have a look. Well, I think people who give awesome recognition, they always want to create a memory of that experience. So have a look at what those people that you admire for giving recognition do. But I'm sure you'll see that they kind of orchestrate the moment. They're going to create that opportunity to say, let us stand over here and pose for the picture. They'll make sure that there's someone there with a camera to photograph that memory. They'll have a videographer present if it's a large event, capturing more than just the one presentation, for example. And then the people who give awesome recognition kind of follow up with the individual. They'll send some extra notes, thoughts, memories, whatever about the individual in an email and a letter. And they may even accompany that note or letter with a digital copy of the photo or of the video file taken at the event. So see what you can do to capture memories. That's when it becomes awesome. It wasn't just a singular experience. It can have a longevity to it when you actually capture memories. And they follow up on positive actions. They are incredible people, the givers of awesome recognition, because it's just the beginning of great things to come. They will touch base to find out the rest of the story. Certainly, that employee was acknowledged for whatever positive behaviors, effort, contribution made. But what happened after that? And they'll connect with that individual to find out, tell me what's going on with that project. Was there anything more developed? What impact have you seen happen since then? And they will converse with that individual. You've got a wonderful, positive relationship now formed with this giver of recognition, and they'll want to find out, what else are you doing? And they'll recognize them again. And it's a never-ending story with awesome recognition, because they want to find out what else is going on that they can recognize and acknowledge that individual. And I think just kind of highlight the contributions that they have made. So they don't just pass you by in the hallway. They actually stop. You can achieve a lot in 30, 60, 90 seconds to find out about what's happening in that employee's life since they were last recognized by the giver of awesome recognition. And what's interesting is that I think these givers of awesome recognition, especially when they're in a leadership position, they want to encourage ongoing growth and progression. So they are encouragers. If you've got a project, if you've got a goal, if you've got a dream, they will encourage you. A different kind of recognition, but recognition nonetheless. They will also find out the goals you have that, they can help with, because what you will find is that they can even mentor you. And what kind of awesome recognition is that, to be mentored by a leader who already respects and values your contributions on the job? And finally, you'll also see that leaders who give awesome recognition are the kind of people who will recommend you to perhaps be a part of an emerging leader program, or recommend you to take whatever learning and development programs are available. Because you've got their endorsement, you kind of get in the front door and have some wonderful opportunities to connect with other people who probably also have received awesome recognition. And what a wonderful grouping that is. What a wonderful teaming up of like-minded people to be together because you've received awesome recognition. So they look for that growth and progress that can happen after they've given an initial awesome recognition to you. Watch out, because they will be your best cheerers on, best cheerleaders. All right, so we're coming to the end here. This is a very interesting topic, awesome recognition, the skills and attitudes you need to develop. So I want you to think about these questions. What skills and attitudes have you observed in those who always seem to give awesome recognition to other people? And then for your own organization, do you see ways to educate your leaders and managers to develop these skills and attitudes for giving awesome recognition to others? So that's certainly something to think about, because we can't just say, well, this is great. This is a great exposition of what people who give awesome recognition do, how they think, but how can we make it happen? How can we transfer this knowledge and information into our workplaces so that our leaders, our managers, are the givers of awesome recognition? And I love this quote from Maya Angelou, wonderful poet, wonderful person, who said, when you know better, you do better. And I hope that with the information we share with you today, that now that you know better, you will personally do better, and that you can convey this kind of knowledge and transfer it into a knowing to doing with your leaders and managers as well. And so I think, Tommy Lee, we've come to this wonderful point in time where we might have some comments, questions, suggestions. What do we have today?
Quite a few today, but I'm gonna use my executive privilege, and before I get to theirs, just comment. That first question was so good. When I think about people who do recognition right, I think about my grandfather. And I might have shared the story with you. He always, when I was get on his knees, so we were always eye level.
Yep.
I wasn't like this looking up at him.
Sure.
We were equals. And I tried to do that with my kids, or even my Boy Scouts today. Just try to just kind of hunch down a little bit on there so we're evil, but it's about that connection and how it used to make me feel. And at the time, I didn't realize why I liked my granddad so well. But, back now, we connected on so many different levels. He was a big John Wayne fan, and, just watching Gunsmoke together and stuff like that. And when he wanted to talk to me, he would just definitely get on his knees, a very, very tall man.
Okay.
So his knees and just have conversation with me that way. So I just, when I think about who I would like to model or how I would like to make people feel, I think about my granddad, and if I can, make people feel even half as good as he made me, I'm on the right track. So
that's
just
wonderful.
Thank you for making me think about him today.
That's wonderful. Very much eye to eye and connection. Yeah.
It was a tiny little thing that I didn't even notice at the time until later. I was like, why did he always do that? Oh, yeah.
Now you get it.
now I get it. And that's one of my favorite quotes too.
Thank you for sharing, Tommy Lee.
When my kids mess up, look, you didn't know. Now you know. And when you know better, you do better.
Exactly. You got it.
There's no crime in not knowing.
No.
And once you know, it's kind of hard to not know again, to unknow.
Yes.
Once that seed's planted, it's like,
ooh, that's what we hope to do.
Absolutely. So let's get to this question. I got 6, and it looks like one might be still coming through.
Oh, wow.
Quentin, there's some comments. This one's a comment. Being open and transparent is important. Admit to me he simply forgot my birthday. He make an excuse or blame anyone else. I respect for admitting he was human and not perfect.
Yeah.
So that's the transparency you're talking about.
Sure.
Employees can sniff out a fake.
Yep. And I think employees will be more forgiving of maybe not the best recognition given than they will be for no recognition at all.
At all, right.
Exactly. So, the suggestions we've given are just that up a notch on how you give recognition and things we all need to work on. Absolutely.
But the clear transparency and, look, I'm so sorry I forgot your birthday, whatever reason,
Yeah.
It's just glazing over it or forgetting about it, We're all human and we've all done similar things. We get it.
Yes.
Cheyenne says, I never thought about keeping notes on things that are important to my employees. I struggle sometimes to figure out what to recognize. I know I should be doing it, but sometimes I forget.
And you know what? I think a great remedy for this perhaps is don't hesitate to have a sit-down session, 5-10 minutes, and say, hey, I want to meet with you to understand how you like to receive recognition I need you to be candid with me. Maybe I'm not doing so well on this. And would you mind if I take some notes? So I want to be able to do better. And once I do this, I need, hey, you hold me to this, you know? If you wouldn't mind, I just want to take some notes so I can look at it and become better at recognizing you. I think having one of those kind of candid, what I call a recognition preference interview, that's the formal name, but you know, you can be very informal. Having that sit down, having some ideas, some notes, powerful. And then when you have the kind of incidental conversations, meetings in the cafeteria, finding out what happened after a weekend when we come in on Monday morning, learning some of those things, you can go back to that list, whether it's paper-based or on your computer, add to it. It's wonderful when you find out these little tidbits and going, oh my goodness, I didn't know they were a certain sport team fan, you know, whatever it was. But now you've got an arsenal of information that you can use when giving recognition to them the next time.
Absolutely. Robert says, in high stress times, I like to know what's going on in an employee's life, if I can. But how deep do we go without appearing to be too nosy?
Oh, yeah, good one. I recall very clearly an employee who had some health concerns, and they had to go for some diagnostic testing. And of course, as their manager, I said, hey, I don't know how serious this is. You know, is there anything you need to share? No, it's okay. I just need the time to go do this diagnostic. Well, if you and I know that most evaluations, diagnostics take a good 7 to 10 days before they get the results back.
Right.
So I marked down in whatever system I was using then 10 days after that date to just follow up with that employee. Again, not from a prying point of view, just, I just want, hey, not sure if you've had a chance to hear back on your results, but I'm just concerned, how are you doing, if you'd like to share. What's interesting, it was the second time that they opened up.
Really?
First time, didn't want to reveal anything about why they were going. Second time, I think they were so appreciative that I actually followed up at approximately the right time when they would have the information, that caring action opened up, they opened up and shared what was going on. So I think, yes, you ask a question, they have the right to respond how they wish. They still know you cared by asking.
Yep.
If they open, that's great. If there are markers that you need to follow up in the future, use that as another opportunity. So yeah, I mean, I understand that there are stressful times in people's lives. Your job and responsibility is to show caring in whatever way is best for that individual.
Right. And I think that your sentence was perfect. That's our man, it's just to be there.
Yeah.
And get as deep or as, let the employee drive that.
Absolutely.
We just follow suit. Perfect. GO, I don't know if it's the name or initials, but shouldn't you figure out the impact before you give people a task?
Oh, interesting.
That's probably a reference to what you were saying as far as, making sure that, they're on task, and when you're giving recognition, that's not I guess Gio's probably saying, the impact of the department or the person or the project that they're working on. But I think what you're talking about is a little different. You're talking about the impact of the end result.
Correct.
Not necessarily the impact of the goal or the actual,
No, that's right, Tommy Lee. I think I think too many times when we're giving recognition, my 2-part specificity rule, where we first identify the behaviors, the actions as the first part of your recognition. But the second part that employees say to me is so meaningful is the fact that when you tell them how their actions made a difference and the impact that those actions made, they weren't even fully aware themselves that impact that they made. We all want more purpose in our work. And when you give awesome recognition by giving this impact connection, all of a sudden people go, wow, I didn't even realize myself that that made an impact. So telling them gives more emotion, more feelings, more of a story behind the actions that were done. And I think it just adds so much color, if you will, flavor to the recognition that we give.
Absolutely. Barbara says, words are good, but timing and tone are equally important too. Does the delivery method matter? Face-to-face, email, or tweet?
Well, there's always going to be...
It's hard to get tone electronically.
Yeah.
Tone can be misconstrued. You know, we've all had a text that's like, what? And the person didn't even mean what.
No. Text, you're right. There's no tone in text. But one of the things you need to keep in mind, as in all things, there is a degree of value, perceived value behind the medium and the mode of delivery.
Right.
Always face-to-face is going to be highest, right? And I would, now text is kind of coming up there above email, you know?
Yeah, it absolutely.
Because of the frequency of usage, the preponderance of using smartphones now. But even then we have to be still using the wording in the right way. So we still have to identify those positive behaviors and actions, still have to acknowledge the difference that individual made. We still have to be, get rid of the great job, good job, generic kind of phrasing, because that can be so easy to do, great job.
Right.
Right. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But so we have to be careful. And then there is purely context. If you're remote from the individual, can you make a phone call? Is it worth a phone call? Is that too interrupting? Is it better to send a text and an email to be able to at least communicate? You've got your own constraints, depending on the nature of the work, where the individual is, and the timeliness. Timeliness is very critical. So when you hear about something being done, recognize them right away. Don't delay. So, whatever mode of delivery is going to be the best in that situation where you are, where the individual is very critical. Now, a little aside, because it's triggering a memory for me, and that is, I remember a manager sending an email to an employee who worked on a factory shop floor, commending them for some action. Great. The employee remembered the email. But then this manager goes on the shop floor, maybe in the afternoon, walks by the employee and doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
So in the plus and minus balance of things, they're ignoring them when close to face, wiped out the positive of the email.
Right.
So that's another way in which you have to be very careful with your context of where you are, where the individual is, and how you acknowledge people, both kind of before, during, and after kind of thing.
Right. Good. And this is the one that was coming through, just popped up. I love his name. His name is Tom. And it says, I hate public recognition, Tom says, but I work in a place that only does recognition at weekly meetings in front of everyone. My hands sweat every week. What an awful experience.
Oh, wow. And this is where, this is a truth in this person's life. This is a reality. And the only way their manager, leader, whatever, needs to know what that truth is. And so when we share that, it will hopefully influence the individual by giving them feelings of what this individual goes through each week.
Right. Can you imagine every week?
Oh,
having sweaty hands and stomach up tight, and that you might be recognized, and this manager thinks he's doing a great, this manager thinks he's doing something positive, but And I
Oh,
bet you, Sunday nights, I don't know what day the meeting is, but let's say it's Mondays, and I'm sure he's thinking about that Sunday night,
oh, sure. Oh,
you know?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
drags out, you
Yep.
know? And this is where I would hope, and I respect what this individual goes through. I do not know their work situation, their
Hmm.
relationship with their leader, manager, but I would hope that they could actually change things in a positive
Yeah,
way
absolutely.
for them to go forward and say, look, this is what I go through each week. And I'm sure I'm not the only one
Right.
who doesn't necessarily value this type of recognition. If I do great things, please come and tell me.
Right.
This is how I like to receive recognition. I want it to be one-on-one. It could be in their office, their area. It could be in the manager's office, their area, whatever's right. Maybe it's going to be written, just depending on the work setup, whatever. But
Hmm.
recognize me when I do the great things. But please, you know, don't do it that way. I mean, people
Right.
are embarrassed, they're stressed, they're anxious. Um, I remember one case where a company called me up and said, Roy, we've got this major leader who's done a phenomenal contribution for our company. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing if it hadn't been for their contribution.
Right.
They merit receiving this, President's Award of Excellence, whatever the name of their award was. But they don't want it. They don't want any public association, acknowledgement, anything. Roy, what do we do? And I
Hmm.
say, well, talk to the employee and ask them if they would accept a letter from the president and have that letter on their personnel file.
Right.
And they accepted that. So the employee was acknowledged. There was no public fanfare, which is what they detested. They didn't want it even mentioned. They didn't want it even on a website. I mean, it might seem extreme, but that's what that person's reality was.
Absolutely.
And you have to respect it. And so they received that letter, which they greatly appreciated, and a copy of it was put on their personnel file, which they accepted as being a good thing to do. So, yeah, you really have to respect the wishes of employees and do whatever you can to still acknowledge them, to still give them awesome recognition, but respect their values.
Just that's something I had to struggle with because I'm the complete opposite. I want the
Uh-huh.
fanfare. I want everybody to know, shout it from the mountaintops, because that's just who I am. And we tend, I believe, with recognition to kind of do what we like, and
Uh-huh.
just assume and paint that broad brush, with everyone and say, well, if I like it, everybody must like it. Well, you have to kind of remove yourself from the situation. And that's why the
Exactly.
webinar you did on was it recognition assessment? I can't remember the specific title, but when you were talking about, sit down and talk with someone about how they like to be recognized.
Yeah.
You know, Maybe it's an onboarding. The onboard. Maybe I think that was actually the one.
Yeah,
When you
either
onboard,
onboarding or it might have been the recognition preference interview that we did.
preference interview.
We've
Yeah,
got
that was
we've
it.
got great webinars for everyone
We
to go.
do. We do.
Yeah.
You got great topics, Roy. And it's not really you, it's your fans.
Yeah.
They kind of direct you and say, hey, I need help with this. And it's so great that you listen to them and then help us all out. Because if one person's asking the question, we probably are all thinking it.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
Good
that's a
point.
really good point. I hate that this guy is going through that every week.
Oh,
That I don't know
agonize.
what culture is, but it sounds probably like a culture comfortable going to his boss to tell him that.
Yeah. I just hope that is opportunities there for them. But
Yeah,
thank you. I appreciate their candidness in sharing what they have.
absolutely. That's all the questions and comments we have.
Well,
How
it's
do we?
been a
How
good
do we
session
respond?
today.
Absolutely, great session.
Yeah. All right. So let me just highlight for everyone that if you want more information about how to give real recognition the right way, wherever you work, you can contact us here at the number here, my email. You can follow me on Twitter. Please visit us at redo.com. And you can learn more information about how to give recognition the right way at my blog at authenticrecognition.com. And big thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your presence and hope that you'll join us for future webinars as we share them with you. Thank you for joining us today and learning more about this is what awesome recognition looks like.